I have another frame to propose to you, and I wonder if this is something that you see in movement culture and with the people that you work with. Sometimes I feel like what you describe is part of a, let's call it a developmental arc for people. So early on, we all have to fit in to some degree in society. We have to be recognized by society just to survive, to make a living. And so we make these big decisions on, let's say, what we're going to do for a living or who we're going to be in the world. And then inevitably, and sometimes there's a lot of utility to those decisions. You have to make those decisions. You have to turn yourself into something before you can explore being nothing. And then what are you truly becoming? So there's like stages of development. And then we inevitably end up paying a price for these decisions of what we're going to be and how we're going to be. We develop, in Jungian terms, let's call it a shadow, right? We become a little bit ossified. We develop blind spots. There are parts of our potential that we do not tend to. There are potentialities inside of us that we neglect as a result of the decisions that we've made of who we're going to be and how we're going to show up in the world. And then I think we maybe reach a point, and this is what I want to kind of investigate with you. Is this something that you've experienced personally or with the people that you work with, where we start almost like hearing the call of our lost potential, of all the things that we've chosen not to be, of all the potential that we left behind. And we're called to wake up that dormant potential. And we can't just access that by doing more of the same, by performing harder, by putting your head down and working harder. You're not going to get there by working harder. We have to get humble. We have to maybe like breathe through the belly a little bit. We have to open ourselves. We have to become a beginner again at certain things. We have to fail a little bit more than our egos are comfortable letting us fail. We have to suck a little bit. And then we could maybe start to enter a different phase of life where we can activate some of that lost potential and that was made dormant by our survival decisions early on, and maybe become a fuller person, even if that comes at the price of being a less good version of the performance you got in the first half of the journey. Is this something that kind of rings a bell, something that you experience, something that the people you work with experience?
Yeah, it's a common journey, maybe related to be a lesser version of a very strictly defined and limited concept of yourself that was there before, but a much more fuller version of a closer idea of a real you, of a real deep, essential you can say. So we tend to think in very constricted terms, especially earlier in life. That's who I am. You have those titles. I'm Israeli, I'm a male, I'm this age, I do this, I do that. I'm short, I am tall, I'm muscular, I'm not muscular. All these titles keep on kind of, you place them in front of you. Most people, you see them entering the room, these titles enter before them. And then, so when you let go, you are like letting go of that limited you. You get a much bigger gift. But that's first unknown, so you keep on hanging to that constricted thing. By the way, for me, it was something very much related to skill. So we're talking about, when I experienced it in relation to skill. So I have this skill, and then okay, is that skill who I am? I don't want to lose the skill. I don't want to lose the skill. But it's like, okay, what am I losing by holding on to the skill, by maintaining the skill? What else am I losing? I'll give you an example. In North America, you have those refuse to age older, usually gentlemen. Somehow women are not so, which is very interesting, are less common in this phenomenon recently. But all kinds of successful people, males, I see the anti-aging, the fountain of youth, or the old bodybuilders, the prune face with the 16-year-old body. Okay, so you can hold on to your muscle mass and you do the hormone replacement and you do this and you do that. But what else are you losing? Is not for a moment conceptualized. For example, to look yourself in the mirror and to see the aging process daily and to connect to it and see how many beautiful blossoms come from that. Or to feel the fatigue of older age and to practice and to work with it and to give birth to incredible things because you had to face it. Or to see the wrinkles in the mirror instead of performing another immediate Botox or plastic surgery. But by seeing that beauty, how the Japanese say, the sabi, connecting to a deep sense of beauty, which is completely untapped in the West. Well, it's tapped a little bit because people will appreciate, a De Niro, or will appreciate, I don't know, Gary Oldman. But then for themselves, no, that's not, that's not connecting. So maintaining things also too strictly, I'm not talking about the alternative. I'm not offering an alternative of, neglect. But I am talking about connecting to the flow around us, as you said, the nature around the tree. So that was a big thing for me. I didn't have too many fucks to give about how I look or whether, I have more white hair or less, but I did have a lot of relationship to my skill, which was hard earned. I didn't give too many fucks about the money that I made. I could very easily let go, but then I really cared about, the health of my body when it was threatened in some ways. This is another form of practice. So again, I don't offer any kind of neglect, but I am offering to connect to this beauty and to empower yourself beyond disease and into death even, in this beautiful way of exploration and being. For me, the practice should address that. The practice should not just offer more and more tools to maintain and to hold. This is great, and it does that. I still have my six-pack, and I still, protect my joints, and my body moves well. But I'm also discovering deeper and beautiful things inside of myself and outside of myself, which I would have never discovered if I was holding on too tightly.
So the tree is not trying to look like the young tree that it was at a certain age, or the image of what a tree is. You keep evolving. And I always wonder, like, these people that are heavy into let's call it the denial of aging, or the desire to stay young and to be how they were when they were young. I always wonder, you also see sometimes people that they maintain the discipline, they maintain, let's say, healthy eating, they maintain a lot of movement. They seem to look like a more graceful version of an older person, let's say, than some of these, like, I'm in denial and I'm trying to cover up the aging. There's almost like an acceptance of what is, which is the chronological aging, but in a way you can still stay in very good shape, but in a way that kind of accepts the process of aging as opposed to trying to deny it. So that's what I hear when I'm hearing you, and it's almost like you're now back on the path of exploration, because now you're in a place that you haven't been before.
Yes. And I say to people, even in relation to age, I said before to people, I offered age should be disregarded, but aging should be accepted and worked with. So it's like to think of yourself in terms of that's my age. That's another definition that is now I'm not doing this because I'm older. You're again limiting yourself. You're again setting yourself into traps. But then aging is a process that is unfolding in us. By the way, it's not aging. It's called, the process here is not called living. It is called dying. And that's what we're busy doing here.
Yeah.
We are dying here. So if because the process called living is not so honest, and it hints at a way out, which doesn't exist. But the process called dying informs every moment. The end of the journey informs the journey. So actually, we should call it dying, not living.
I totally get the point. And I think part of the difficulty here is the reward loops that we're exposed to in society for being a certain version of ourselves, or being, let's say, like having these restrictive definitions by society of what beauty is. So beauty is this, so now I must be this. If I want to be bestowed the feeling of being, let's say, looking good or being good, this is what it is, so now I have to comply. And it's the same thing in your career as well. You know, when you were talking earlier, I was thinking of these like reward loops that we get, like that you get with the skill, let's say. A lot of people will be like, wow, wow, wow. And of course, it's very difficult to attain that skill. And then at the same time, you have the reward loops. And then that makes it so much harder to let go of. For me, it was, being a lawyer, always being very precise and very logical and aggressive and being connected to these different outcomes. And the world, like the market, loved a certain version of me that was very good at achieving certain outcomes. And then I got caught up in those reward loops. And then it was like, okay, more. Like the business people discovered a tool that they liked, and then they just wanted more and more of the tool. And in a sense, you become instrumentalized by society's definitions of what it looks up to, or certain outcomes that are valued in society. And then then you become that version, right? Like you'll become the skillful Ido that does the one-handed headstand, and everybody's like, okay, that's Ido. Oh my God, when is Ido going to do that move? You know? And then all of a sudden you become kind of imprisoned in that one version of yourself that is also an authentic version of yourself, and takes a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to achieve. But then there's all that lost potential. And as you say, it's like, okay, but what are you not exploring? What are you maybe losing by staying attached to that?
And, I'll take your example as being a lawyer and being, for example, on time. Mm-hmm. And, here is this complex little relationship. You're a successful lawyer and you're always on time. But what happened if you were not on time? Oh. Maybe you would have become a greater lawyer. Maybe at certain scenarios.
I'm very punctual, Ido. I'm very punctual. That is, you hit it on the head. It's like, and when other people are not on time, it drives me crazy.
I fully understand. So let me complete the thought. So maybe missing one train or bus would have gotten you to a place which impossible to get by being on time. But if that becomes an excuse for weakness, that is an error. So if you can be on time, work on yourself, practice yourself, cherish it. But also, if it is impossible to be on time and something happened, learn to let go, to enjoy that. And this kind of fine line, I see 99% of the people falling on both sides. But very, very few people do their best, not use anything as an excuse like this new agey crowd and just let it go. You don't need to do anything. You're already an immortal soul. You're floating, But on the other hand, total lack of working on oneself, dealing with the deep demons, hard work. You can be on time, make it important. But if you are not allowed to be on time, the whole world does not collapse. And you might even discover that this is the only way to go to the next level, to let go of that. Or to fuck up something, or to have a Skype jump in the middle of a podcast.
Yeah.
This is where we get it wrong.
You hit something, Ido. You hit something with me. I have to admit, my wife is also my dentist, and she also always tells me, like, you're like my worst patient because you're used to being in control. It's like in my profession, I have to control every single micro detail in the chain. It's very subtle, achieving these outcomes, very, very subtle. And so there's like a side of me that's developed through that is very much about the self-control, the discipline, the detail. But I like that. Sometimes you're not allowed. So that's good. It's good. And then when it's not there, also just accept it. Also flow with it.
Yeah, 20 years from now, Fred, you're not going to care. You're not going to care. And you know what? You're not going to care about these little mishaps because they're not important. But 20 years from now, you are going to care that you cared to be on time, that you worked hard on yourself, not caved to your weaknesses. That's the balance. That's the balance. And we can see it with the eagle's eye. But sometimes in the day-to-day, we forget.